Okay, so we can start. I will do a brief introduction and then we'll share our time between our two, our joint presentation actually. First of all, I would like to thank you, Marianne, for organizing this wonderful workshop, and for you, Cecilia, also, for being with us, and for all my colleagues I met last year. I really find this topic very, very interesting and very stimulating. So, it is not a written presentation, and plus I'm going to speak in something which is not my mother tongue, so it's going to be a little bit hard for me to speak in English. I hope it will be clear. So just a few ideas. First of all, the topic of our panel is citizenship and education. So about these two words and the Arab Spring. So I would say the first thing is that it is all about citizenship, what happened in the Arab Spring. As citizenship, but we wonder what exactly of the absence of citizenship. It's of the citizenship to become. And so this is why we are in the making of history, and this is why these kind of encounters are very important for us to think about about certain concepts. I will say that the suicide, the self-immolation of this guy called Bouazizi, self-immolation was, I interpret this, that he was, because of not being citizen, not recognized as citizen, because he killed himself, he immolated himself in front of the building of the state building in his town. He was not allowed to enter to the state building. He entered in history, actually. And he immolated himself because a citizen who is reduced to nothing becomes nothing. And what is important is that for the first time, his family gathered and interpreted this gesture as a political statement. He said nothing, but everybody didn't say this is maktub, this comes from God, etc. This is, while Ghannouchi himself and the Mufti of Tunis said he is not allowed to go to, and they gave the Islamic interpretation saying this is haram, we should not kill ourselves in our religion. But people didn't hear this thing, and they really, and the demonstration, started from this. So the population was waiting for this because there was an accumulation of frustration that was already there. Yeah. So for political things, that it is interesting that there was already preparing this and just waiting for the moment of the explosion. Another idea which is important is, so the call was for democracy, the slogans were really for liberty, social justice, and the first slogan was because they took his cart, it was his only means for survival, he was responsible for his mother and his sister, and the first slogan was, the work is a right, band of thieves, to the state. So that was denouncing, the state of depriving people of social justice. So that was important, and between parentheses, Egypt played a very important role from the beginning in organizing this protesting. Another good idea which is important in the history of this uprising is the notion of citoyen du monde, of what Michel was referring to as a global citizen. In French, we can be a citoyen du monde and interfere and react without this. We'll demonstrate this later. Without the not control, but without the interest and involvement of the international community, journalists, activists, etc., and even my colleagues, supporting me. I would have been in jail many times in Tunisia because I was writing as a researcher. But I know in my everyone has a document in police. It was written. She has many important networks outside Tunisia. And my colleague he's presenting something as working with UNICEF, doing this education for children, etc. So it is important, and I really stress this important thing that and sometimes when the international community didn't look at us, the regime was more repressive. Okay, so now I have an argument about the notion of citizenship in the Arabic language. She told us a little bit interesting things that actually it was not existent because there was no rule of law. The state was modern but incompleted because it didn't allow people to be represented, And citoyen refers to the Greek notion of someone who is active in politics in the city. Now the word in Arabic is muwatan, and it is very interesting because the word means inhabitant of a territory. And this territory can have national frontier, but also Arab frontier. It can be muwatan of the Arab world, of the Arab ummah. So we have no word for nation, specific nations. Al-Ummah. And Ummah means Ummah of believers, the community, So this is more than imagined in terms of Benedict Anderson. So, when you belong to what? Do you belong to what? So there is not base of rights, because people will change the constitution everywhere in Mubarak, Tunisia, etc. This is nothing. They can change the constitution and they do whatever they want. What is interesting for me now is that I wanted to work after the revolution. And so I will show here, I will show very briefly how this word, because I'm a linguist, so I pay attention to the word. You say the notion of citizenship, but what is the word to say this? So the concept of citizen doesn't exist actually, of a citizen, we'll see it later what does this mean, citizen? And I wanted people to produce themselves what they say about the construction of this notion before I go to textbook, etc. After the revolution, because as my argument is to say, we wanted to become citizen, having social justice, rights, etc. Having institutions, we are going to build constitution where there is, the mechanism of democracy and liberty. And we'll see how this is something abstract. What is interesting for me also is that despite the advancement of Tunisia regarding family law, regarding the modern nation with institutions, I can say that despite the revolution, the state continued to work. There was no, for example, electricity problems during the revolution, so people went to work the following day. So that means that there was a lawyer who did the traffic traffic, and you were going to manage traffic. Anyone could become, doing this. And people, what is interesting is that people respected what he said. Anyway, so importance of women in the history of the modern state of Tunisia, and women especially, they are now 60% of the population in the universities. My other point is that the irony of history, as my friend Fatin suggested, that under Ben Ali, the irony of history, at least he was coherent. He said, no democracy, I'm the father of the nation, they are too not mature, they have to educate it, etc. So he didn't lie. He said, no, only one party, it's me, I'm their father, blah, blah. And Ben Ali said, okay, we'll have multi-party system, we'll have democracy, we'll have human rights at school. We were taught human rights at university. In secondary school, civic education, you teach about citizenship. So let me show, and I had I would agree also with what you said this morning. I wanted to, after the conference at Stockholm, I wanted to work on citizenship. And I found that I have to go to empirical studies because it's not only in books that I can find this. And I met with Zuhair, and I used what he did in schools. He was teacher of civic education, and he could, through what the system was, teach civic education. And I'm going to teach and show you the first picture I used in
Okay.
You see, that was here. Thank you. On the left, you see this. You can see it. Do you see now?